All right, well, let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and get started. We just hit 20. I want to get started on what we do as a matter of routine. Like I said, we talked the last, or not the last time, but a little while ago, we talked about disinfecting of the gear, cleaning of the gear, so that we're not sharing, COVID or anything else. Um, but at the end of all of our dives, we want to maintain all of our gear, not just our full face masks. Hi, Dan. But we want to maintain all of our gear. So be it your BCDs, be it your wetsuits, your dry suits, everything else. But specifically here, we're going to talk about underwater communications, routine maintenance, and your full face mask. For your individual gear, I'm not talking about stuff that you share, but for my equipment, as an example, I'm not sharing my equipment, so it matters just a routine cleaning. With freshwater rinse is a big deal. Getting salts out of it is always going to be and I don't know why this is so complicated. We send gear out on demos and so forth, and it's amazing how many people send us our rental gear or our demo gear back just messy. And it's like, I don't know, do you really treat your own personal gear that way? Why would you treat our gear that way? To where when you take a mask out of the kit, I'm going to take this light off of the thing. But when you take your mask out of the kit, you shouldn't look inside and see salt crusted on the inside of it. And other things, the equalizing assembly, stuff that comes out of your nose is going to go all over the equalizing assembly. You want to clean all that stuff up as a matter of routine. So take your, I had to fix your volume. Okay. Do I sound okay? I didn't get any feedback from anybody. Let's do real quick if I could get some feedback on audio. Do I sound okay? If I could get somebody to comment on that, and I'm going to go ahead and continue. If the video looks okay and the volume's okay, somebody give me a thumbs up or something just to let me know that it's all right. But anyway, back to it. So you're going to routinely clean your gear as a matter of routine when you put it up. So you want to give it a good. Thank you, Josh and Mike. But give it a good soapy water rinse if you have to go into the soapy water. It certainly doesn't hurt every now and again. I don't do a soapy water wash and rinse of my gear every time. It also depends on where you're diving. If you're diving in quarries, I grew up diving in quarries. I know, Dan, you guys dive in quarries a lot. Thanks, Daryl. You dive in quarries a lot and freshwater a lot. The nice thing about the springs down here is when you come out of the water, if you didn't come up through a bunch of duckweed and get into a bunch of sand, then your gear is for the most part, it's already rinsed off. So you want to get the sand and stuff out of it, especially out of your dry suit valves and so forth. But as a matter of routine, coming up out of freshwater is not a big deal. Saltwater is a big deal. You want to make sure that you get the stuff out. So a good freshwater rinse of your equipment, all your gear, including your full face mask. Again, I'm talking about routine cleaning, not disinfection. We covered that in a previous video. When you give your gear a rinse everything off, give it a good swish around. With your regulator, you want to take your regulator after you give it a good rinse and shake it out. It's always a good idea if you can rinse it under pressure. But the big deal is if you can't rinse it under pressure, make sure your first stage is sealed up as you would. Don't push the purge button while you've got it in the rinse bucket. So you want to keep that seated, the soft seat seated on the hard seat, and then you want to shake the water out of the valve. Shake it until really no water comes out. Don't go crazy violent with it, but do shake it until the water comes out. And get any of the water that's trapped between the counter pressure disc and the exhaust disc out of there. So that's a matter of routine cleaning. With your stealth regulators, if any of you are diving stealth regulators, be very careful about how you shake it, because that spring can jump, and that's a bit of an issue. If that happens, give me a call, shoot me a note, and I'll get into the minor repair that is to fix that up. A couple of things too. Now, we want to take care of our high-use connectors. If you're using comms, if you're using an SSB 2010, which I've got plugged up for if you're using a 2010, you want to check the high use connector on it. Always make sure you clean any debris out of there, out of the connector itself. If you're using if you're in sand or dirt or anything like that, then you might consider getting, and I wish I'd have brought some with me. I didn't bring any with me. Consider getting some pipe cleaners to clean out any sand and grit that's in here. Also, as a matter of routine for cleaning these out, it's not a bad idea to flush a little CLR down through here, or white vinegar. I use CLR for this. And I've got these little bottles that have needles on them, and it's a blunt needle that I can wash it and rinse out the female sides of these connectors with the CLR. I follow that up with a freshwater rinse out of the same bottle. I'm going to be doing a video on this here pretty soon. That's a tune-up of your SSB 2010 is a video I've got on the slates to do. And then rinse that out with water, and then follow it up with a little bit of alcohol. Squish that out. The alcohol will dry any of the water out that's in there. And then you want to take a little bit of silicone grease and put a little silicone grease in the female side, on the male side. You plug them together a couple of times and wipe off any excess, but you do want to keep these lubricated. Having dry high-use connectors is not necessarily a good thing. You can get away with it for a little while, but you'll start to, it's called an eraser effect of the rubber. You'll start to show wear on the rubber contacts, and you'll start to lose the seal of it. But you do want to take care of them. With the SSB 2010, as a matter of routine, you're going to take the transducer off by rotating the locking ring. There's an O-ring on the inside there. You see a little bit of salt on that. Clean a little salt out, but there's an O-ring on the inside there that you want to take care of that O-ring. We have a maintenance kit, and again, I'm going to be doing a tune-up video for the SSB 2010, how we troubleshoot electrical problems and so forth with that. Also, the O-ring down here, and then just as a matter of routine maintenance of swapping your batteries out and so forth. Now, as far as a buddy phone goes, and I didn't bring a buddy phone other than this is a record out buddy phone. There's no speaker on the back. It has a cable that goes, so don't pay attention to this as a matter of routine. But this, for some reason, it creates a lot of problems or a lot of trouble for people in that they don't know how to take, and this seems pretty simple, is that they go digging at the buddy phone cap, and this is a matter of routine because you have to swap batteries, and they'll go digging at the battery cap here with a screwdriver. Don't do that. The way we take the battery caps off of the buddy phones is you take a screwdriver, or you can use, your pocket knife. Everybody carries a Swiss Army knife, right? But you're going to take basically the shaft of the screwdriver, and this could be anything. It could be a dental pick for that matter. And we're going to lay it across the buddy phone like this, as you see here, and we're going to pry the battery cap off like this. And then once you get it started, then you can remove the battery cap all the way. But the worst thing you can do is go digging at these things, because you'll start to lose the engagements. There's a little lug on each side there. You'll start to lose those engagements, and you don't want to lose those engagements. Okay? So again, what you're going to do is you're going to lay the shaft of the screwdriver across, and you're going to open this up. A lot of people ask, well, why is this cap like this? You would think, well, why don't we put screws on it and so forth? The buddy phone and this cap is basically a sacrificial cap. If you have a piece of hair fiber, something, or something that interrupts the seal or breaks the seal of the O-ring to the battery cap, what happens when seawater especially mixes with the battery? It'll build up pressure on the inside. So with that, what happens when the pressure builds up, there's potential for cracking the housing if you don't have the means for that pressure to go away. So what this does is, again, it's a sacrificial cap. It'll blow this cap off. You'll flood it with salt water. You lose your battery. You lose the cap most likely. But they're only like 12 or 15 bucks for a kit. And the kit comes with a battery cap, comes with, I think, 2 O-rings, maybe only one. And it also comes with a little foam pad here that adds tension to the battery. And you replace it, 15 bucks. It's not a bad deal. Whereas if we use screws to screw that battery cap down, and the O-ring leaked, Now you've got a solid captive system here, and these things are designed to hold pressure from the outside, not the inside. And there's the potential for the housing being ruptured or becoming cracked where it ruptures open. And you don't want that, because then there's no repairing that. That's toast. Then you throw it away or use it for a door stop. They do wedge underneath the door pretty well. So be real careful with that. That's what the purpose of that is. And it works pretty well. If you take good care of the cap and you take care of not digging at it with a screwdriver, you'll get years and years of life out of the buddy phone. And then when you think about it, we're more than happy to sell you all the replacements for the stuff you want to break. And our dealers appreciate that too. No, don't break your stuff. It's a simple matter of treating your gear, properly. And again, treat the high use connectors, as such. And that's really as simple as that. Now, as far as, again, routine maintenance goes, it also gets into how often do you overhaul your regulators and your masks. We recommend once a year. Now, it's a recommendation. There's no law that says you have to do that. You're not violating any warranties if you don't. If you've only been diving twice in the past year, I would recommend that you can consider giving it an overhaul. Don't go past a year and a half or 2 years at the most of having it professionally overhauled. If you're not a service technician yourself, take it to one of our shops. You can look them up. We have a listing on our shop of who are service technicians. And or you can call us and we can look them up for you, or you can send it to us as a matter of last resort. You can send it to us. Our fees are on our website. If you go to oceantechnologysystems.com, go to service, you'll be able to see service fees in there. I don't have them all memorized to sit here and bore you with quoting them all out anyway. So you do want to send it off. Now, that gets into a matter of routine maintenance philosophy. How long and how often should you maintain a mask? Well, as a matter of routine dives, if your mask is not exposed to anything nasty, then you go follow those guidelines of annually, every 18 months or every 2 years. If you're diving a lot, if you hit, say, 200, 250 dives in less than a year, you want to have your mask overhauled. Now, let's say you just had your mask overhauled, and I don't want to get gross here or anything, but if somebody gets sick in their mask, and they just had their mask overhauled last week, and you whatever, got seasick for too much motion in the water, and I've seen it happen. If you dive any length of time with a bunch of people, I was a working dive master for a while, so you see this. People get sick. They vomit underwater. And if you do that, if you vomit in your mask, well, what's the maintenance cycle of that mask if it was just overhauled last week? Yeah, you're pretty much ready for another overhaul or another service cycle of that mask, if that makes sense. So you want to go ahead and have that mask clean it out as best you can. Don't send it to your service tech, without at least a good thorough cleaning. Because they won't appreciate that. I've been on that end of the receiving end of the equipment. So be real careful about that. All right. So routine maintenance, again, treat it like all the rest of your gear. Make sure you put your gear up dry. So hang your mask up. With the masks, generally, what I'll do is I'll hang my mask by the chin cup, and then I'll come in and I'll sop out any water at the bottom of the mask after I give it a good rinse. Soapy water if I need to. Again, sometimes you need to go in and wash your mask out as necessary. But if it's just my mask and I'm diving as a matter of routine, you got to get the salt out of it. And that's the big deal. Get the salts out of it. All right, enough on that. Does anybody have any questions about this? If you have any questions, go ahead and post them. I will be going back, and I'll have a question and answer session at the end. But next I want to, so again, if you have any questions about maintenance and, well, any questions at all. But next I want to talk about underwater audio to video. If you haven't had a chance to go to our website, take a look at our website. And hey, Josh, if you're still listening, do me a favor. Go on our website and copy the links of underwater audio to video. I think you've seen it before. They're very blue, and post it down here for me so that we can put that link up. If I had somebody else here working with me to do that, I'd do that, but I don't want to, Do you cap the air inlet before? Oh, well, Mike, you want to rinse it with the hose on. And always make sure that your first stage is plugged up. So, and then don't push the purge button when you're doing a rinse if you don't do it under pressure. I always kind of like, you know, if I have the capability, and it depends on where you are, where your rinse station is and all that stuff. I kind of like taking it with my tank and everything to the rinse bucket. If you got a big, you know, trough, or like our old dive shop did, drop everything in pressurized, and that's the best way to get a good rinse. You can hit the purge that way and blow any air and water out of it, and it works really well. But that's not always the case. We don't have that convenience all the time. A lot of people in this, I'll touch on this, I'll finish it up with this. You know, a dunk is always better than hosing it down. If all you got is a hose, then rinse it off really well. I have a tendency to just sit and rinse and rinse and rinse and rinse if I'm using a hose. But you're better off if you got a rinse bucket. At my home, I have a big, you know, Rubbermaid bucket that, you know, one with the rope handles that I fill with water, and I'll swap it out. Trash cans, whatever you need. But you got to get your gear rinsed off and get those salts out of it. Mark, you can go back and you'll be able to watch this, you know, since you're late. No worries on that. So just make sure that you don't get water down into your second stage. Don't hit the purge button while it's flooded if you don't have it under pressure. So be careful with that. And again, take care of the other components as I've already talked about. All right. Underwater audio to video. And Josh, if you can too, there's a body shadowing video. If you get a chance to copy the link to body shadowing and post it here for me as well. Body shadowing, that video was posted with the audio recorded to a GoPro. Now we were on Guardian masks, not Spectrums, but I've got my Spectrum set up with, and you can see how up to date I am with my cameras. A Hero 3. I bought the Hero 1, Hero 2, Hero 3. I have a Hero 4 someplace. I have not gone beyond those. I just haven't updated to the Hero 8 now. You know, of course, if you buy the Hero 8, they'll have the Hero 9 out the next week, right? All right. So what we did in that one video, that's called body shadowing. Go to our website and you'll see, scroll down go to videos, go to Learning Center, down to videos. It's Learning Center off to the right of the OTS logo at the top, off to the right, Learning Center, pop down videos, click on videos, and it'll bring up all the videos. And it's called body shadowing. And the body shadowing, all that audio was recorded directly to a GoPro. And so all we did is we had the GoPro mounted to our masks. We had, it was on Guardian masks, not on Spectrums, but it doesn't matter. The Spectrum has a little bit of a challenge to it in that how you're going to attach the earphone. What we do is we take the earphone out of one of the earphone pockets. With the Spectrum, I found that the short side is a little too short to go. But on the back of the housing, I have what's called Dual Lock. Now, Dual Lock is a 3M product. You can buy it on Amazon or at a hardware store. It's hard to find. Like, I couldn't find it at Lowe's or Home Depot. I could find it at Ace Hardware, though. But I also found it on Amazon or somewhere online, but I believe it was Amazon. Came in big rolls, but it usually comes in little strips in a blister pack. And it's the same material on both sides. So it's the Dual Lock. This material, it's not like Velcro. Velcro's hook and loop. So you've got Velcro on one side, you know, Velcro, you got hooks on one side, loop on the other side. This is the same material, so you can take one strip, cut it in half. The other half you're going to put on the back of the earphone. And you got to be careful with these earphones. I want to talk about that. You're going to put a little square on the back of the earphone, and then you mount it. Literally, you're going to mount the earphone to the back of your GoPro housing. And when you're recording, it's recording all audio that comes through your earphone. And it's cool. Yeah, I mean, here's the trick. You can't do it with a buddy phone. I'll talk more about that. You can't do it with a buddy phone because there's no speaker that you can take out and put on the back of your GoPro. What Josh had done, Josh was one of the the guys that started this. When Josh first got his GoPro, it was probably a Hero 1, I bet, Josh, right? he put it on a tray, and he took a Guardian or a receive-only unit, which is just a buddy phone with no cable. It's just a listen-only device. This one is a receive-only device that goes out to a cable. I'll talk about that here more in a minute. And he put the receive-only unit on the bottom of his tray that held his GoPro camera, and it recorded everything that was said that was received by the receive-only unit. Disadvantage. You're going to hear bubble noise because every sound that's in the water, the microphone of your GoPro is going to pick that up, but it's also going to pick up the audio from your speaker. To adjust the audio, you need to adjust your earphone volumes in your 2010. Now, that's a setup with the SSB 2010 to your ear microphone assembly. Again, that you're using a 2010 to the ear microphone assembly of the mask with the two speakers in it. You pop one of those speakers out and you mount it to the back of the GoPro. And again, the video is called Body Shadowing, and it's on our website for go to Learning Center, pop down videos, and you'll see body shadowing there. Now you go on down to towards the bottom of our video page, and you're going to see underwater audio to video. How do we put underwater audio to video? So the way I prefer to do it, and there's a couple of different ways to do this. The way I've got mine set up is I've got my Gates housing here, and this is my Gates housing. Now on the side of my Gates housing, I have a high-use connector, and this one's not standard. We're using actually EO connectors now, and the EO connectors are it's a single pin with collars on it. And what I'm going to do is I'm taking my housing apart here, and I want to show you what we've got on the inside. I don't have a camera in here, but there's the back of my housing. Set it down here without clanking it too hard on the tile floor. But then on the inside, I've got an audio input that goes to my camera. I've got a little circuit board in here also. These are available. We need to check on it. This is an attenuator that now allows me to adjust my audio to my video down. And I can plug this into the audio input of my camera. Now, the beauty of that is that it records directly to my camera. I don't need to sync up in post-production afterwards or editing. So I have my natural sound. All the audio is recorded real time at the exact same time it's said to the camera. So it's really the optimal way to do that. Now that uses what we call a VSB, and the VSB is an audio cable. Got this all tied up. The VSB is a Y splitter, and I described that in that video, Underwater Audio to Video. It's a Y splitter. So this Y splitter plugs into the camera. You saw the connector on the camera. This plugs into the camera. Now, this is special. This was made by, for me, out of the specials department. Again, the connector is different than what you would buy under current production. But basically, it's a Y splitter. Here's the Y that goes to the camera. Here's the Y that goes to my mask, plugs into the ear microphone assembly of my mask. And then the other side of the Y, this is where we call it a Y, you can see it there, goes to my SSB 2010. So now what we're doing is we're recording everything to the camera, as I mentioned earlier, as it's said. Everything that you hear goes into your camera. You won't pick up natural sound with this. What you're going to pick up with this is only what goes to your earphones. So we split the earphone signal off. That goes into your camera. Now what that means is you're not going to hear any bubble noise other than what comes through the microphone of your mask. So that's all you'll hear. Whereas with the GoPro, you're going to hear other people's bubbles. You're going to hear your bubbles as they go past the camera and so forth. One important thing. When you're, back to the GoPro real quick, and I don't want to bounce around too much, you always mount the GoPro on the opposite side of the exhaust. So if you're diving a Guardian, you mount the GoPro opposite the exhaust. If you're diving an Inner which exhausts over here, you're going to mount the GoPro camera on the diver's left side. Now, why do we do that? Because we don't want the bubbles going up in front of your camera. It's amateur and it's annoying and it'll ruin your video. And, you know, it's about that time that you do that and you screw up is when the manta ray and, you know, the killer whales and the great white sharks and everything goes swimming by, and you can't see them because you got bubbles. The other thing is that if you have lights on your mask, don't put that on the bubble side either, because then you get this strobe effect of the bubbles going past. Now, I did mention that this is a receive-only unit. Now, this does exactly the same thing as that whole setup with the SSB 2010. This is a receive-only buddy phone, and it plugs in. Now, this will go on your camera. You see, I got a piece of dual lock here on the back of that, and on the front of my camera housing, I've got a matching set of dual lock here so that I can mount my RX100 DRO, we call this. The RO stands for record out, and this is the record out cable. This buddy phone has no speaker on the back, and instead of the speaker, not sure why your video is mirrored. You know what? It does that, and I don't know if there's a setting where I can adjust that, Lou. It does that because you know it's at STO now, but yeah, it just does that. I've noticed that with others as well. But anyway, we take the speaker out, and instead of running having the signal comes out and goes to this connector, and it goes into your camera the exact same way as your SSB 2010 with the VSB. The VSB is the video, sound, and I'm not sure what B means. Board? I don't know. Video, sound, something. The boss made up all these names a long time ago, and sometimes they make sense, sometimes they don't. So anyway, that's how we put underwater audio to video. There's one more way that I want to talk about, and this is not optimal, and I get this a lot with television productions. They want to record to a surface station. I didn't bring a surface station with me, but they want to record to a surface station. And our surface stations it's a good way to record. It's not optimal though, and I'll explain why. With a surface station, on the panel, there's a record out jack, and it's an RCA jack, a female RCA jack. So you plug into that with a cable, then the cable goes into your audio recorder, whatever you happen to be using. Sound guys will have a big sound thing that they have to carry around and, you know, what they do their business with. Or you could just use a little recorder. And I've even seen people using, I'm not going to pick up my cell phone because I'm talking on it, but you can also have record features on your cell phone. Which is convenient as I'll get out because everybody's got a recorder with them. You just need to get the audio into it. And so you have a microphone input. I've used it on my older phones. I haven't done it with the new one, where you can actually audio input into it. And there are some record features, some apps that you can download. Now, the problem with recording out of a surface station is the position of the transducer. Now, let's think about this. The beauty of recording directly to your camera or directly to your GoPro on your mask is that your receiver your transceiver is right there with you. So if, say, Josh and I are diving up at Morrison Springs here in a couple of weeks, we need to get out. We really need to get out. And we're sitting here talking to each other. We've got close proximity to each other's audio, so we're going to get the best audio we could get. If you use a surface station and your divers swim off any distance, then you've got a lot of water between you and your subjects. You can still, for the most part, you'll pick it up, but it has this distant artifact to it, to the audio. It just sounds like they're way over there, and it's not nearly as clear. So if you are going to record to the surface station, you want to try to get your subjects underneath the boat or wherever it happens to be so that you can drop that transducer right down amongst the divers so that you get that good signal. An analogy I often use for that is just like photography or videography in underwater. We shoot full wide with close-up lenses for a reason. We don't use telephoto underwater. We shoot full wide and close up because we minimize the amount of water between us. If we minimize the amount of water between us, we minimize the amount of junk in the water. of backscatter or anything that could interfere with our photography or our videography. So if there's any muck in the water, we minimize that by shooting full, wide, and up close, micro. If you go back, then you add all that, so all the murk that's in the water is now, it's magnified by the distance that you have. So if you have 10 foot of visibility and you're shooting at 1 foot, you got pretty clear water. If you got 10 foot of visibility and you're shooting at 5 feet, you don't have very clear water. Same principle applies with communications. In that, all the ambient noise that's in the water, if you start to separate all that ambient noise that's in the water, be it jet skis, boats off in the distance, anything that can be put in, if you got a boat that's running above you with a generator running, that can put an acoustic signal in the water. If you're in the Caribbean or anywhere where there's shrimp, depending on the time of day, the shrimp can get really loud. That's what that sounds like, the staticky noise is, and that'll be picked up. You can minimize that by reducing that signal to noise ratio, and or increasing the signal to reducing the noise ratio by getting close up, and your automatic gain will take care of a lot of that. So those are that's some of the major points that we have here for installing that. Now here's the thing: if you're wearing an SSB 2010, or if you're shooting video, it's not that expensive to put, considering the investment you have already, it's not that expensive to put underwater audio to your video. When you think about it, when we're shooting underwater video, what do we have? We got hiss, hiss, glub, glub. You hear somebody go underwater, and then, or you edit in pretty music. Otherwise, we have silent movies. I mean, in 1929 with, what was Al Jolson's movie, that brought us into the talkies. Well, there's no reason that you can't do that now with your underwater audio too. And it's really pretty remarkable to do this. I've got another video, it's not posted here, but a personal video where I've got my twin brother. We're diving off the Accokeek, or on a wreck called the Accokeek off Panama City Beach here. And he pipes in and says, "John, there's something big over here off the port side. There's a manta ray over on the port side." And I wouldn't have seen this manta ray had he not called me on the comms to tell me. And I got the only video of a manta ray in the Gulf of Mexico that I've ever shot. Was because he called me, and again, I got all that excitement in his voice, and the manta ray, and I got the manta ray on video, and it turned out really, really cool. It was a great shot. So again, if you're shooting underwater video and you've got underwater comms, it's really a no-brainer to put communications to your video. You can fix things up in editing. That's a whole new discipline. When you get into shooting video, you're going to get into editing unless you have somebody else that can do it. So I'm going to kind of wrap up with that. I don't know what our time stamp is right now. I don't see the time stamp. We're 36 minutes. We're a little over. I'm going to turn off and I'm going to turn back on for a question and answer. So if you want to participate in the questions and answer, stick around. I want to break this up into 2 videos, the question and answer, so that it's a separate one. So I'm going to shut down for just a couple of minutes. I'm going to come back on. I hope to see you there. Bring your questions, comments. If you got something to add to it, Max, I'm going to go to I'll get your question here to go to that. And I'll see you guys here in just a couple of minutes. I want to thank you guys. Hopefully everybody is staying safe and healthy. We're starting to open up here. Business is actually going crazy down here on the beach. There's traffic jams here, so we're getting a lot. Hopefully it's all going to be opening up for you. We can all get back to normal and minimize the damage that's been done by this event. So again, I appreciate everybody, and hope to see you back here for questions and answers. We'll be announcing when I'll be doing it. I'm not sure if I'm going to be doing them every week, but maybe every other week. We're going to look and see how much we're going to be doing the future live events, as opposed to doing additional videos here in the future. So again, thanks for coming. I appreciate your attendance. I'll see you at questions and answers here in a few minutes. Thanks.